You reached for your phone before your eyes adjusted to the light this morning. Before your first thought was your own, you handed your attention to an algorithm that spent the night calculating exactly what would keep you scrolling longest. You call this staying informed. You are not informed. You are occupied. There is a word for a territory that looks free but is governed by an invisible structure, a simulation. You are not in the future dystopia the films warned you about. You are already inside it. And the tell is this: you can feel that something is wrong, but you cannot stop participating. Two men looked directly at this kind of world. One governed the largest empire in Western history and wrote private philosophy he never intended to publish. The other watched modernity approach from the 19th century and described its exact mechanism before it arrived. They have 10 rules, not for your comfort, for your survival. Rule 1, Amor Fati, love what is.
You spend your life negotiating with reality. You say, if only this hadn't happened, if only I had been born differently, if only the world were other than it is. This is not philosophy. This is the whimpering of a creature too weak to bear existence. Amor Fati. Love your fate. Not tolerate it, not endure it. Love it. Every wound, every failure, every moment the world refused to be what you needed it to be. This is the only honest relationship a man can have with his own life.
I wrote in my journal, for no one but myself, that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. I did not write that to inspire others. I wrote it because I was a man under enormous pressure who needed to remember that resistance is not the enemy of a meaningful life. It is the meaningful life. If you are waiting for comfortable circumstances to begin living seriously, you will die waiting.
Rule 2, voluntary discomfort. Choose your suffering.
The Stoics practiced poverty on purpose. We wore rough clothing. We fasted, not because suffering is noble, but because a man who has never tested himself against hardship does not know what he is. Your generation has engineered away every form of friction. You have removed boredom, silence, hunger, physical labor, every sensation that might force you inward. You have become incapable of sitting alone in a quiet room without reaching for a device. You have made yourselves soft in the deepest possible sense.
What does not kill me makes me stronger, but only if you actually allow it to touch you. Most people now construct their entire lives as insulation against discomfort. They call this wellness. I call it a slow preparation for total collapse. The man who has never deliberately chosen difficulty has no idea what he is capable of. He is a hypothesis about a human being, not the thing itself.
Rule 3, the death of the audience. Stop performing.
You have constructed a self for public consumption, a performance. You post photographs of your grief, your joy, your spiritual awakening. And you do this in real time, before the experience has even resolved into meaning. You're not living your life. You're producing it. The audience has become more real to you than your own interiority. And the result is that you no longer have an interiority. You have a feed.
I ask you, what does it profit a man to perform virtue rather than practice it? I governed Rome. I was watched by millions, and I wrote my private thoughts in Greek in a private journal with no expectation they would survive me, precisely because the practice of philosophy requires an audience of one. You cannot think clearly when you are performing. You cannot grieve clearly. You cannot love clearly. Kill the audience. It is a parasite on your consciousness.
Rule 4, master morality. Define your own values.
The morality you have inherited was designed by people who feared strong individuals. It rewards passivity, calls resentment, righteousness, and disguises the will to control as the will to protect. I am not telling you to be cruel. I am telling you to examine every value you hold and ask, did I choose this, or was it installed in me by people who benefited from my compliance? The herd has always punished those who refuse to be herded. This is not evidence that the herd is right.
There is a difference between the man who acts justly because he fears punishment and the man who acts justly because he has reasoned his way to justice as the highest good. The first man will fail the moment supervision is removed. The second man is a fixed point in a universe of flux. Build your ethics from the inside out, not from the outside in. An emperor who rules by fear governs a territory. An emperor who rules by principle governs himself first, and the territory follows.
Rule 5. Memento Mori. Remember you will die.
I have watched men die. I have stood in the ruins of dynasties older than Rome. I have governed an empire that no longer exists, and my private practice every morning was to remind myself, this day may be the last, not as a threat, as a clarification. When you remember that you are dying, the trivial falls away with remarkable efficiency. Your petty resentments, your social anxiety, your fear of judgment. These are the concerns of someone who believes they have unlimited time. You do not.
The eternal recurrence, my most terrifying thought, asks you if you were condemned to live this life again, exactly as it is, infinitely. Would you choose it? Most people, if they answered honestly, would say no. That no is the most important data point of your existence. It tells you that you are living a life you would not choose. This is not a philosophical abstraction. It is a diagnosis.
Rule 6. Silence as a weapon. Reclaim stillness.
Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. I wrote that from a military campaign. I was surrounded by war, political intrigue, plague, and still the silence was available. It is always available, but you must choose it actively because the world, your world in particular, is engineered to prevent it. Every gap in your attention is immediately filled. You have been trained to experience silence as a malfunction.
The great ideas come only in silence, not the silence of emptiness, the silence of discipline. The man who cannot tolerate his own thoughts without external noise is a man whose thoughts he does not trust. And a man whose thoughts he does not trust has no philosophical ground to stand on. He is permanently at the mercy of whoever controls the noise.
Rule 7. Self-overcoming. Become who you are.
Become who you are. This was my central instruction. Not who your parents imagined, not the person your social class prepared, not the self the algorithm has assembled from your data. Who you actually are. The thing underneath the performance, the conditioning, the accumulated fear. Most people never meet themselves. They live and die as a collection of borrowed beliefs and social reflexes, and they call this a personality.
The obstacle is always internal before it is external. I failed publicly many times. The Marcomannic Wars were brutal and prolonged. I made political decisions I later questioned. But the discipline of philosophy meant that every failure became information. The question was never, why did this happen to me? It was always, what does this require of me now? Self-overcoming is not a destination. It is the only direction.
Rule 8, the internal citadel. Protect your mind.
You have an inner citadel, a place within you that external events cannot penetrate unless you permit them. Most people have never located it because they have spent their entire lives with the gates open, allowing every opinion, every notification, every manufactured crisis full access to their interior. The citadel must be built, reinforced, maintained daily, not as isolation but as sovereignty.
A man who can be destabilized by a comment, a news cycle, or a stranger's opinion of him has no self in any meaningful sense. He is a weather vane. The work of philosophy, real philosophy, not the academic performance of philosophy, is to build something inside you that does not move when the wind changes. This is not indifference. This is the precondition for everything else.
Rule 9, Anti-Fragility. Grow through rupture.
I was ill for most of my productive life. I wrote Thus Spoke Zarathustra in 10 days. My health was catastrophic. My work was ignored. My relationships collapsed. And I would not trade the pressure because the pressure was what made the work what it was. A philosophy written from comfort is a philosophy written about nothing. The ideas that survive are the ideas born under impossible conditions.
The Stoic does not merely survive adversity, he uses it as material. Every loss, every betrayal, every illness, every defeat, these are not interruptions to the philosophical life. They are the philosophical life. The man who has only been tested in calm weather has not been tested. He simply has not encountered the question yet.
Rule 10, the sovereign mind. Own your attention.
The quality of your life is determined above all else by what you choose to attend to, not what happens to you, what you attend to. An emperor surrounded by catastrophe who has trained his attention is more free than a comfortable man who has surrendered his attention to every passing distraction. This is not metaphor. This is the mechanism of inner life. You are at every moment the sum of what you have been willing to look at directly.
The modern world is an attention extraction machine. It does not want your compliance. It wants something more valuable, your focus. The man who controls his own attention controls his own reality. Every other freedom is downstream of this one. And it is the freedom almost no one is currently exercising. Own your mind. The simulation has no power over a man who refuses to be simulated.
Two men, 15 centuries apart. Zero interest in your approval. The world you were handed is not broken. It is functioning precisely as designed, to keep you stimulated enough to consume, anxious enough to comply, and just comfortable enough to never ask the question that would change everything. The 10 rules are not a program. They are a compass bearing. The direction is inward, and it requires that you be willing to travel there without an audience watching. You already know what you need to do. The only remaining question is whether you are willing to do it.